The ship fell from the sky like a dying star. It burned bright orange against the purple clouds of the Valian homeworld, leaving a long trail of smoke behind it. The sound of the crash echoed across the mountains and reached the capital city within minutes. Queen Una stood on her balcony and watched the smoke rise in the distance. She was only 23 years old, but she had been queen for 2 years now. Her father died suddenly, and she took the throne before she was ready. The nobles whispered about her youth. They said she was too soft, too inexperienced. She heard every word they said, and she hated them for it. A messenger ran to her chamber with news. The crashed ship was not Velan. It was human. Una's eyes grew wide. She had heard stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about humans. They said humans were strange creatures from a distant world. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest. They did not have sharp claws or thick skin or natural weapons. But somehow, wherever humans went, they survived. And wherever humans fought, they won. Una did not believe the stories. She thought they were exaggerations. How could such weak-looking creatures be dangerous? The Velan Empire had conquered 100 worlds. They had never met a species they could not defeat. One crashed human was nothing to fear. She called for General Desu, her chief military advisor. He was old now, with gray scales and tired eyes. He had served her father for decades. He walked slowly into her throne room and bowed his head. "I want the human captured," Una said. "Alive. Bring it to me so I can study it. I want to understand why everyone fears these creatures." Desu did not move. His face became strange, like he was remembering something painful. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I must advise against this." Una frowned. "Explain." "When I was young," Desu said, "I fought humans. It was a small battle on a border world. We had 200 soldiers. They had 12. He paused. His voice became quiet. "Only 7 of us survived." Una stared at him. 12 humans killed almost 200 Velan warriors? "They did not fight like any enemy I had ever seen," Desu said. "They did not charge at us. They did not follow rules of combat. They hid. They waited. They attacked when we were tired, when we were eating, when we were sleeping. They turned our own weapons against us. They made us afraid of every shadow." He looked at the young queen with serious eyes. "Your Majesty, I have fought many enemies in my life. Humans are the only ones that still visit my dreams." Una listened to his words, but she did not feel fear. She felt anger. This old general was trying to scare her, just like everyone else. They all thought she was a weak little girl playing at being queen. She would prove them wrong. "Send the Pale Fangs," she ordered. Desu's face went pale. The Pale Fangs were the most elite hunters in the Empire. 20 warriors, each trained from childhood to track and kill. They had never failed a mission. Sending them after one crashed human was excessive, but Una wanted to make a point. "Your Majesty," Desu tried again, "perhaps we should simply bomb the crash site from the air. It would be safer." "I said I want the human alive," Una repeated. "Are you questioning my orders, General?" Desu lowered his head. "No, Your Majesty." "Then go." He left without another word. Una watched him go and felt satisfied. Soon she would have this human in chains. She would parade it before her court. She would show everyone that she was not afraid of the galaxy's so-called most dangerous species dot far away. In the smoking ruins of a cargo ship, Kang Tawan opened his eyes. His head was bleeding. His left arm was broken. Every part of his body hurt. But he was alive. He had survived worse crashes during his years in the military. He pulled himself out of the wreckage and looked around. Purple sky. Strange trees with silver leaves. The air smelled like metal and flowers. He was definitely not on any human world. Tay-1 checked his equipment. His emergency beacon had activated before the crash. That was good. His people would come for him. The problem was time. A rescue fleet would take at least 3 weeks to arrive. He needed to survive for 3 weeks on an alien planet. He found some supplies in the wreckage. Water purification tablets. A small knife. Some emergency rations. Not much, but enough to start. Then he heard something in the distance. Ships. Coming his way. Taiwan did not panic. He had been trained for situations like this. He quickly gathered what he could carry and moved into the forest. The silver trees were tall and thick. Good for hiding. Good for watching. He climbed a tree and waited. Soon he saw them. Alien creatures, tall and covered in pale scales, with long limbs and dark eyes. They wore armor and carried weapons. They moved in a formation that he recognized. Hunters. They were looking for him. Tay-1 counted them. 20. All armed. All professional. A less experienced man might have been afraid. Tay-1 was not afraid. He was thinking. He watched how they moved. He studied their weapons. He noticed how they communicated with hand signals. He learned that the hunters spread out to search the crash site. They found blood. His blood. One of them smiled and showed sharp teeth. They thought this would be easy. Tay-1 stayed in his tree and began to plan. He had 3 weeks to survive. These hunters wanted to capture him. They did not know yet that they had made a terrible mistake. The prey was not going to run. The prey was going to fight back, and humans always fought to win. The leader of the Pale Fangs was named Jae-hyuk. He had been hunting for 15 years. He had killed creatures on dozens of worlds. He had never lost a target. When the queen ordered him to capture one human, he laughed. This would be the easiest mission of his life. On the first day, they found the human's trail. Blood drops on silver leaves. Footprints in the soft ground. The human was injured and moving slowly. Jae-hyuk smiled at his team. "We will have this creature before sunset," he said. They followed the trail into the deep forest. The trees grew thick here, blocking most of the purple sunlight. Shadows covered everything. The Pale Fangs moved carefully, but they were not worried. They had better eyes than humans. They could see in darkness. They could hear heartbeats from far away. They were the perfect hunters. The first trap took them by. Surprised out, one of the hunters stepped on something hidden under the leaves. There was a snapping sound. A piece of metal from the crashed ship swung down from a tree and struck him in the chest. He fell without a sound. The other hunters froze. Jae-hyuk ran to his fallen soldier. The warrior was still breathing, but he would not wake up for hours. Jae-hyuk looked at the simple trap. It was made from ship parts and forest vines. Nothing special. But it had been placed perfectly, exactly where a hunter would step. "Stay alert," Jae-hyuk ordered. His voice was less confident now. They continued more carefully. They found more blood, more footprints. The human was still ahead of them. They moved slower, watching for traps. Night began to fall. The second attack came from above. Something dropped from the trees onto one of the hunters. There was a flash of movement, a short cry, and then silence. By the time the others turned around, the attacker was gone. Another hunter lay on the ground, unconscious, with a wound on his head. Jae-hyuk felt something he had not felt in many years. Fear. They made camp that night. They took turns watching. No one slept well. In the morning, they found a message written in the dirt near their camp. It was in their own language. Simple words, "Go home." The human had been there, while they slept. Close enough to touch them. He could have killed them. Instead, he left a warning. Some of the younger hunters wanted to leave. Jae-hyuk refused. "We are pale fangs," he said. "We do not run from prey." But the human was not acting like prey. On the second day, 3 more hunters fell. One walked into a pit covered with leaves and broke his leg on the sharp rocks below. 2 others were pulled into the trees by ropes made from vines. They were found later, hanging upside down, unconscious and embarrassed. Yohyuk sent a message to the palace. He asked for more soldiers. Queen Yuna refused. She told him to finish the job. On the second night, the attacks became bolder. The human moved like a ghost through their camp. He stole their food. He cut their communication equipment. He left more messages in the dirt. Last chance, leave. The hunters could not find him. They searched the trees, the bushes, the shadows. He was always somewhere else. He seemed to know where they were looking before they looked. General Daesu received reports at the palace. His old hand shook as he read them. He recognized this pattern. This was how humans fought. They did not face enemies directly. They broke them down piece by piece. They made them tired. They made them scared. They made them make mistakes. He went to Queen Yuna and begged her to end this hunt. "Your Majesty, this human is not normal prey. He is trained. He is dangerous. We should send an army or not send anyone at all." Yuna's eyes were cold. "I sent 20 of our best hunters after. 1 wounded alien, and you want me to send more? How would that look? The entire galaxy would laugh at us." "Better to be laughed at than to lose," Daesu said quietly. "We will not lose." Yuna slammed her hand on her throne. "The Pale Fangs will capture this human, and I will show everyone that humans are not to be feared." Daesu bowed and left. He knew what was coming. He had seen it before. On the third day, the slaughter began. The humans stopped playing with them. He attacked directly, quickly, without warning. He appeared from the shadows, struck, and vanished. The hunters could not react fast enough. Their training meant nothing against an enemy who did not follow any rules they knew. One by one, the Pale Fangs fell. Some were knocked unconscious. Some were injured too badly to continue. A few simply ran. They dropped their weapons and fled into the forest, too terrified to fight anymore. By sunset on the third day, only 3 hunters remained. Jae-hyuk and 2 others. They stood in a small clearing, backs together, weapons raised. They were covered in sweat and dirt. Their eyes were wild with fear. "Show yourself." Jae-hyuk screamed into the trees. "Face us like a warrior." There was no answer. Just silence. Then, slowly, the human stepped out of the shadows. He was a medium-sized creature with dark hair and tired eyes. His left arm was wrapped in bandages. Blood covered his clothes. He looked like he should be dead. But he was standing, and he was looking at them without any fear at all. "Go home," he said in broken Velan. His voice was calm. "Tell your queen, I am coming to see her." Yeah, he could not believe what he was hearing. "You are coming to the palace? Are you insane? You will be killed." The human smiled. It was a strange smile, full of confidence that made no sense. "We will see," he said. Then he turned and walked away. Toward the capital city. Toward the queen who wanted him captured. The 3 remaining Pale Fangs did not follow him. They went home in shame. And they told everyone what they had seen. The hunt was over. But the story was just beginning. The news spread across the planet like fire. A human was walking toward the capital. Not running. Not hiding. Walking. The entire Velen Empire was talking about it. In the small villages along the road, people gathered to watch. They had heard the stories about what happened to the Pale Fangs. 20 elite hunters defeated by 1 injured alien. It seemed impossible. Some thought it was a lie. Others were afraid. Taewon walked slowly. His body hurt with every step. His broken arm sent waves of pain through his shoulder. He had not slept in days. But he kept walking. He had a plan, and the plan required him to reach the palace. The road to the capital was long and straight. It passed through farmland and small towns. Velen citizens stopped their work to stare at him. They whispered to each other. Some pointed. None of them tried to stop him. A group of young Velens threw rocks at him from a distance. Taewon did not react. He kept walking. The rocks hit his back and his legs. One hit his injured arm, and he almost fell from the pain. But he did not stop. He did not even look at them. The young Velens grew quiet. They had expected the human to run or to fight. His complete lack of reaction confused them. They stopped throwing rocks and just watched him go. In the palace, Queen Yuna received reports every hour. The human was getting closer. He had passed the river. He had passed the old temple. He was now only a day's walk from the city gates. General Daesu came to her with a proposal. Let me send soldiers to stop him on the road. We can end this quietly, before it becomes a bigger embarrassment. No, Yuna said. Her face was hard. He wants to come to my palace? Let him come. I will deal with him myself. In front of everyone. Your Majesty, please think carefully. This human has already humiliated us. If we let him walk into the capital freely, people will talk. They will say we were afraid to stop him. And if we send an army after one wounded human, they will say we were afraid of him. Yuna's eyes flashed with anger. I will not send soldiers. I will let him enter the city. I will let him enter this palace. And then I will execute him in front of my entire court. The galaxy will see that the Velen Empire is not afraid of humans. Daesu wanted to argue more, but he knew it was pointless. The young queen had made her decision. He bowed and left, his heart heavy with worry. The next morning, Taewon reached the capital city. The gates were open. No soldiers waited for him. Just crowds of Velen citizens lining the streets, silent and staring. Taewon walked through the gates. The streets were wide and paved with dark stone. Tall buildings rose on both sides, decorated with symbols of the empire. Everything looked ancient and powerful. This was the heart of a civilization that had conquered 100 worlds. And Taewon walked through it like he owned it. The silence was strange. Thousands of Velens watched him, but no one spoke. No one attacked. They just stared with their dark eyes, trying to understand what they were seeing. A young female Velen pushed through the crowd. She was small for her species, with lighter scales than the others. She wore simple clothes, the kind that servants wore. Her name was Hana, and she worked in the palace. Hana had heard the stories about the human. She had listened to the surviving Pale Fangs describe their defeat. She had heard the fear in their voices. She wanted to see this human for herself. She walked up to Taewon carefully. He stopped and looked at her. His eyes were calm and steady. There was no hate in them, no violence. Just tiredness and something else. Something like patience. You are the human, Hana said. Her voice was soft. Yes, Taewon answered in broken Velen. He had been learning the language from communications he intercepted. You are going to the palace? Yes. Hana did not know what to say. This creature should be afraid. He should be begging for his life. Instead, he looked at her like they were just two people having a normal conversation. Why? She asked. The queen will kill you. Taewon smiled slightly. It was a tired smile. Maybe, he said. Maybe not. I have something to tell her. Something important. What could you possibly tell her that would make her spare your life? Taewon looked up at the palace in the distance. It sat on a hill, tall and beautiful. The truth, he said simply. Then he nodded to Hana, like a polite farewell, and continued walking. Hana watched him go. She felt something strange in her chest. Something like respect. The crowd followed Taewon at a distance as he climbed the hill toward the palace. Guards stood at every doorway, but they did not move to stop him. They had received orders from the queen. Let him come. Taewon reached the palace gates. They were made of dark metal, carved with images of Valan victories. Two massive guards stood on either side, holding long spears. "I am here to see the queen," Taewon said. The guards looked at each other. This was the strangest thing they had ever witnessed. A wounded enemy, walking into the heart of the empire, asking to see the queen like he was a visiting diplomat. "The queen is expecting you," one guard said slowly. The gates opened. Taewon walked inside. The hallway was long and decorated with gold and purple banners. His footsteps echoed on the stone floor. At the end of the hallway, he could see the great doors to the throne room. He took a deep breath. His body screamed for rest. His arm throbbed with pain. But he had made it. He had walked through an alien empire, survived the best hunters they could send, and now he stood at the door of their queen. The doors opened before him. Taewon stepped inside, and the final game began. The throne room was the largest room Taewon had ever seen. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadow. Great pillars of stone lined the walls, each one carved with the faces of ancient Valan rulers. Hundreds of nobles stood on both sides, dressed in fine robes and wearing jewels that sparkled in the torchlight at the far end of the room. On a throne made of black metal sat Queen Yuna. She was younger than Taewon expected. Her scales were smooth and pale, almost white. She wore golden armor that covered her chest and shoulders. A thin crown rested on her head. Her eyes were cold and proud, the eyes of someone who had never been told no. Guards lined every wall, at least 50 of them, all armed, all watching him with hatred in their eyes. Taewon walked forward. His boots made a soft sound on the stone floor. Every step echoed in the silence. The nobles whispered to each other as he passed. They had heard the stories. Now they were seeing the human with their own eyes. He stopped in the center of the room, about 20 steps from the throne. Queen Yuna stood. Her voice was sharp and cold. "So, you are the human who killed my hunters." "I did not kill them," Taewon said calmly. "I injured them. I let them live. You think that makes you merciful?" "No, I think that makes me smart." A wave of angry murmurs passed through the crowd. General Dasu, who stood beside the throne, gripped his weapon tightly. No one spoke to the queen this way. Yuna's eyes narrowed. "You have walked into my palace uninvited. You have made a fool of my empire. Give me one reason why I should not kill you right now." Taewon looked at her without fear. "Because if you kill me, you will destroy your entire world." The room went silent. Complete silence. Even the queen seemed surprised. "Explain," she said. Tae-1 took a breath. This was the moment. Everything depended on what he said next. "When my ship crashed, the emergency beacon activated. That beacon sent a message to the nearest human fleet. They know where I am. They know I crashed on a Valan world. And they are already on their way." Yuna laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "You expect me to believe that one cargo pilot is so important that your species would send a fleet for him? You do not understand humans," Taewon said. "We protect our own. Every single one of us. It does not matter if I am a soldier or a pilot or a simple worker. If one human is in danger, other humans will come. That is who we are." General Dasu stepped forward. His voice was rough. "He is lying. He is trying to save himself with stories. Am I?" Taewon asked. He looked directly at Dasu. "You fought humans before. You told the queen about it. Tell her now, honestly. Do humans abandon their own?" Dasu did not answer. His face was troubled. Tae-won continued. The fleet will arrive in about 2 weeks. When they arrive, they will contact this planet. If I'm alive, we can talk. We can negotiate. Humans do not want war with the Velen Empire. We have no interest in conquering you. All we want is for our people to be safe. And if you are dead? Yuna asked. Tae-won's voice became serious. If I am dead, they will not talk. They will not negotiate. They will glass this planet from orbit. Every city, every farm, every living thing. Humans do not forgive those who murder our own. The room erupted in noise. Nobles shouted. Guards raised their weapons. General Dae-su called for order. But Yuna just stood there, staring at the human in front of her. She raised her hand. Slowly, the room became quiet again. You are threatening me, she said. In my own throne room, surrounded by my guards, with my entire court watching. Her voice was low and dangerous. You must be either very brave or very stupid. I am neither, Tae-won said. I am just telling you the truth. I did not want to threaten you. I want to help you make the right choice. And what is the right choice? Let me live. Return me to my people when they arrive. Open diplomatic channels with humanity. We can be friends or we can be enemies. The choice is yours. One of the nobles near the front shouted, Why should we believe anything this creature says? He could be lying about everything. Tae-won looked at the noble calmly. Then kill me. And find out. The noble fell silent. Yuna stepped down from her throne. She walked slowly toward Tae-won, her guards tensing with every step. She stopped in front of him, close enough to touch. She was taller than him by half a head. She looked down at him with those cold, proud eyes. You walked through my empire, she said quietly, so only he could hear. You defeated my hunters. You entered my palace. And now you stand before me, wounded and alone, speaking to me like an equal. She paused. You are either the bravest creature I have ever met, or the most foolish. Tae-won looked up at her. I am a human. We are a little of both. For a moment, something changed in Yuna's eyes. Just for a moment. Then her cold mask returned. She turned and walked back to her throne. She sat down. The entire room waited in tense silence. I will think about your words, she said finally. You will be kept in the palace. Not in a prison, but as a guest. If your fleet arrives and your story is true, we will talk. She looked at Dae-su. See that he is comfortable. And put guards on his door. Polite guards. Dae-su bowed. Yes, your majesty. As the guards led Tae-won away, the nobles began to whisper again. Some were angry. Some were confused. None of them could believe what they had just witnessed. A wounded human had walked into the throne room of the Velen Empire and walked out again. Alive and free. And somewhere in the crowd, watching with wide eyes, the servant girl Hana felt hope for the first time in years. Hope that things could change. Hope that the galaxy was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than she had ever imagined. The human disappeared through a doorway, and the empire would never be the same. The days that followed were strange and tense. Tae-won was given a room in the palace. It was not a prison cell, but it was not luxury either. A simple bed, a table, a window that looked out over the city. Guards stood outside his door at all times, but they did not treat him badly. His wounds were treated by Velen doctors. They were curious about his body, about how humans healed. Tae-won let them examine him. He answered their questions when he could. He was building trust, one small moment at a time. Queen Yuna did not visit him. She stayed in her throne room, meeting with advisors, listening to arguments. The nobles were divided. Some wanted to execute the human immediately. Others wanted to wait and see if his story was true. A few, very quietly, suggested that maybe friendship with humans was not such a bad idea. General Daishu was the most troubled of all. He spent long nights thinking about the past, about the battle where he lost so many soldiers. He remembered the fear he felt then. He felt the same fear now. But something else was growing inside him too. Respect. This human had done something incredible. He had walked into the heart of an empire and made the queen hesitate. Hana, the servant girl, found reasons to pass by Taewon's room. Sometimes she brought him food. Sometimes she just wanted to talk. Taewon was always polite to her. He asked about her life, about the palace, about Velen culture. He seemed genuinely interested. Why are you so calm? Hannah asked one evening. They could still kill you. At any moment. Taewon looked out the window at the purple sky. Being afraid would not change anything, he said. When I was young, I learned that fear is useful only if it helps you think clearly. If it stops you from thinking, it is useless. So I choose not to be afraid. Is that a human thing? I think it is a choice thing. Anyone can make it. Human, Velen, anyone. Hannah thought about this for a long time after she left. 2 weeks passed. And then, one morning, the sensors at the edge of the Velen system detected something. Ships. Many ships. Coming fast, the palace erupted in chaos. Nobles ran through the hallways, shouting orders. Soldiers prepared for battle. General Dae-Soo went to Queen Yuna with the news. The human fleet, he said. They are here. Just as he said they would be. Yuna sat on her throne, very still. She had gambled that Taewon was lying. She had been wrong. Now she had a choice to make, and the entire future of her empire depended on it. How many ships? She asked. 47. All armed. But they have stopped at the system's edge. They are not attacking. They are waiting. Waiting for what? For him, I think. Yuna closed her eyes. She was 23 years old. Too young for this. Too young to decide the fate of billions of people. But she was the queen. The decision was hers. She stood up. Bring the human to me. Taewon was escorted to the throne room. He looked healthier now. His arm was healing. His eyes were clear. He walked into the room with the same calm confidence he had shown before. Your fleet has arrived. Yuna said. Yes. They are waiting at the edge of my system. They are waiting for me. Yuna stepped down from her throne. She walked toward him slowly, the entire court watching in silence. She stopped in front of him and looked into his eyes. If I return you to your people, she said, what guarantee do I have that they will not attack anyway? That this is not some trick? Taewon reached into his pocket. Every guard in the room tensed, hands moving to weapons. But Taewon only pulled out a small object. A data chip, battered and old. His personal identification. This is my identity, he said. My name, my history, my record. I am giving it to you as a sign of good faith. Return me alive, show this to my people, and they will know that you kept your word. That you can be trusted. He held out the chip. Yuna looked at it. Such a small thing. Such a simple gesture. But she understood what it meant. The human was putting his entire identity in her hands. He was trusting her. Slowly, she reached out and took the chip. Very well, she said. You will be returned to your fleet, and we will open diplomatic channels. But I warn you, human, if your people betray us, if this is some kind of deception, I will hunt down every human in the galaxy. Taewon smiled slightly. Fair enough. 3 days later, a small Velen ship carried Taewon to the edge of the system. Hannah was allowed to come as part of the crew. She stood beside him as they approached the human fleet. Will you ever come back? she asked. Taewon looked at her. Maybe. The galaxy is big. You never know what will happen. I hope you do. I hope I can see your world someday. I hope so too. The ship docked with a human vessel. Taewon stepped off, and for the first time in weeks, he was surrounded by his own people. The human captain saluted him. Medical officers rushed forward to check his health. Everyone was talking at once. A human ambassador approached the Valan ship. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a kind face. She spoke to the Valan officers politely, professionally. She thanked them for returning Taewon safely. The diplomatic talks began that same day. They were not easy. There was distrust on both sides, decades of fear and misunderstanding to overcome. But it was a start. Queen Yuna watched the reports from her throne room. The human ambassador was respectful but firm. She did not ask for Valan submission. She asked for partnership, trade, cooperation, peace. General Daesu stood beside the queen. What do you think? He asked. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. I think I was wrong about them, she said finally. I thought humans were just clever animals. I thought they survived through tricks and violence. And now? Now I think they survive because they never give up. They never stop hoping. They never abandon each other. She paused. Those are not bad qualities for an ally. Daesu nodded slowly. No, they are not. Months passed. The alliance between Valans and humans grew stronger. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began. For the first time in Valan history, aliens were welcomed as friends instead of conquered as subjects. Hana left the palace to study at a human university. She became one of the first Valan ambassadors to live among humans. She learned their languages, their customs, their strange and wonderful ways. And she never forgot the wounded man who walked into a throne room and changed everything. Tae-1 returned to his life as a cargo pilot. Sometimes he visited the Valan homeworld. Sometimes he visited Hana. They became good friends. Different species, different worlds, but connected by something stronger than blood. And Queen Yuna became known as Yuna, the wise. The queen who looked at a dangerous enemy and saw a potential friend. The queen who chose peace when war would have been easier. The queen who learned the most important lesson a ruler can learn. Strength is not about crushing those who oppose you. Strength is about having the courage to trust. The story of the human who walked into a throne room became a legend. It was told across the galaxy for generations. And every time someone heard it, they learned the same lesson. Never underestimate a human. Not because they are strong or fast or powerful, but because they never, ever give up. And that is the most dangerous thing in the universe.